Let me just, oh, that, got an energy drink this time. Sleep deprivation will not get me this time. What's going on, guys? It's Prime, and I got y'all another build. This one is probably my favorite, and what I think is one of, if not the most powerful, hunter builds in the game currently for PvE. This build is capable of applying debuffs from pretty much every element. It's capable of creating invis off of a kill from basically anything. And I'm not exaggerating. You can get invis off of every kill that you get with this. On top of ability spam, on top of high damage, on top of just being fun. I'm a Titan main at heart, who has slowly been forced to take on the mantle of a Warlock main. I enjoy both of those classes a lot. I don't like Hunter that much. I don't like the feel of the class. I'm not saying it's a bad class, although I will if I'm in the presence of certain Hunter mains in order to make them mad at me. It's just not my forte. If I am swapping off of my Titan and Warlock to play a Hunter build, that is how you know this thing is good. This is one of the best crowd controlling ad clear builds in the entire game. With a simple swap, you can make it a high DPS build as well. And a large part of it takes advantage of some of the changes that happened with Ascension. So of course with this build, we're using Stylish Executioner, which essentially makes it that any elemental debuff is going to give us invis when we kill them. Super crazy. One of the strongest aspects in the game. Very powerful in the Prismatic build. If you're not using this in your Prismatic Hunter, you're doing it wrong. Or you're playing PvP, in which case you just don't know how to proc it consistently. And I get it. The other aspect we're going with is Ascension, which until recently I did not think was all that great, and I also didn't realize something about it previously. I didn't know that this thing jolted. It says right there, jolts targets. Never realized it. I always thought it was just throwing you up into the air and making you amplified. That's not what it's doing. But due to some recent changes, when you ascend, you're also getting the benefit of whatever your dodge is. So we're able to take advantage of Gambler's dodge and spam our melee a lot. A lot. The melee of choice for me was Threaded Spike for a couple of reasons. One, it hits a lot of targets. Two, I don't get to use a lot of strand stuff on Hunter anymore because I think Strand Hunter is pretty bad. I'm sure I'll mention that in the future and do a deep dive as to why. But I really do actually like this melee, and I think it's interesting. The fact that it can sever the multiple different targets essentially gives you and your team a 50% damage resistance from those enemies specifically. You're getting melee energy back when you catch it, which allows you to spam it already. But on top of that, with the way that we're using Ascension, we're able to spam this thing pretty frequently, which we're pairing with our exotic class item in order to add a nice little bit of explodiness. You can use one of the other grenade melee options, like Withering Blade would also be really good for this build, but this is just the one that I think fits the best. Your grenade doesn't really matter, but because of one of the fragments that we're going to use, I like to use either Swarm because it takes advantage of Scorch and causes ignitions, or preferably Duskfield the higher in difficulty I go, because I'm going to be increasing my stasis shattering abilities. And plus, this grenade kind of scales into up-rend content better than the other ones, whereas damage only goes up so much. You can slow and freeze stuff and everything, and it gives us some extra anti-champion tech. For supers, you can use whatever you want again, but I like to use Silence and Squall just because it pairs in with some of the other stasis stuff that we're doing with the subclass. For fragments, I'm doing Faceted Blessing, which essentially is going to help start our health regen every time we get a melee kill, and we'll be getting melee kills a lot. If we activate Transcendence, we're going to be healing our allies as well. Faceted Protection, because we're going to be fighting close range up in people's grills. Facet of Hope, which is going to allow us to regen our class ability even faster. Facet of Ruin is the one that I really like with this build because it essentially allows us to do significantly more damage and bigger explosions on all of our stasis stuff. And for the few things that do take advantage of solar with the build, we're getting a larger area of effect with the ignitions. Plus the mobility's nice on this build. And then last but definitely not least, Facet of Solitude, which essentially allows us to land several headshots and sever a target of our choosing. So if for whatever reason we are completely out of abilities, I have no way to proc invis whatsoever, I got nothing, I can hit an enemy a few times in the head, sever it, get invis off that, and create a tangle, which also can create invis. Mods are completely up to you, like with most of my builds you'll find, because I don't care, I think that mods are your choice. There's a couple that I strongly recommend, and these are going to sound familiar if you saw my other build. The first one is hands-on. We're getting super energy on all our melee kills. We're spamming our melee, so this is going to allow us to fill up our super bar pretty quickly. Because we're spamming our melee and we're going for super energy, I also recommend a heavy-handed to get us orbs off of that. The rest of the mods are up to you. For me, on the legs, I like to have an absolution in order to make sure that I'm getting my ability cooldowns as reduced as much as possible. I also like having a recuperation to give myself a little bit of health in case of an emergency. I can just run over and get one. Whatever you want to do with the rest of your energy is up to you. I just put one of these on to give myself a little bit of extra energy. And of course, we do require this in order to make this build come together. It's not necessary, but it makes the build significantly more fun. We're looking at Spirit of Caliban. Spirit of Caliban basically makes it so that powered melee final blows trigger an ignition. If you're using the regular version of this, you have to use a throwing knife. On Prismatic, with the class item, we're able to get it on any of our melees. Hence why I like it on the Strand melee, because we're able to hit multiple different enemies in different areas, cause multiple ignitions, bing, bong, boom. The other perk doesn't matter, but you do have a couple of options. The one that I like the most right now is Spirit of Gerfalcon, which essentially means that every time that I go invis and come back, I'm getting volatile rounds. So if I am low on my abilities, I can rely on this to get them back. The weapons don't really matter, but I recommend anything in the elemental debuff department. This is just going to give you more ways to go invis, especially in the higher end content. The higher you go, when maybe it's harder to consistently get the kills with your abilities. Or if you're completely out of abilities, you have a backup. I do recommend, however, that you make sure that you're balancing the light and dark, because another aspect of this build is you do want to go Transcendent as often as you can. Transcendent is still playing into all of the stuff we had before, but instead of having the one grenade, you have the Transcendent grenade, which is also quite strong, and you're able to spam Ascension and your melee significantly more often, which turns you into an orb-generating, super spamming, orb-dominating machine. As far as flexibility goes, there are a few things you could change with this build based on the content you're going in. If you need to do any kind of DPS, you could swap out for a golden gun and put on Celestial Nighthawk, and you can still use the basic aspects of this build to great effectiveness. You just won't be taking advantage of Caliban, for example. Another role that's really fun is Galanor and Gerfalcon on your class item. Galanor essentially gives you super energy on hits. Gerfalcon is Gerfalcon, giving you the volatile rounds after you go from invis. This combines the two strongest exotics from pure Void Hunter into one exotic on Prismatic. If you don't have access to Caliban, this is a great backup. You're going to miss out on the explosions, but you're able to spam your super, you're able to spam your abilities, you're able to spam just damage. Hope you guys have fun with this build. I'll definitely have more coming for you in the near future. As always, have fun, don't die, kill clowns, or however it goes. Bye-bye.